Well, we're hopefully going to speak to Steve Goncalves, whose 21-year-old daughter, Kaylee, was tragically one of those 4 students who lost their life in just a moment. We're just trying to get the line up so we can speak to Steve. In the meantime, David Wilson is here with us in the studio. David, this is a case that we have all been following, that you've been following, and then last week suddenly we had this moment in court where they went for the plea deal. What is it about this case, again, that has gripped so many people? The amount of online sleuthing that's gone on regarding this has been extraordinary.
So the online sleuthing is part of the reason it gripped attention. And the online sleuthing started because, of course, the murders took place 6 weeks before there was an arrest. And therefore, that 6-week hiatus between who did this to the person that they arrest created this online, which we saw clips of, this online speculation as to who might have been responsible. I think the other reason it gripped our attention is what we call proximity. The victims were young, white people with the rest of their lives ahead of them. They were students. They were all living in the same house, with the exception of Ethan Chapin, who was the boyfriend of one of the victims and who was also tragically killed. But that sense of proximity, you know, here is a mass murder taking place in circumstances that we can all see ourselves within. And that, of course, they were brutally murdered. We shouldn't forget. They were, you know, there was a degree of overkill, as we would describe criminologically, in how they met their ends. But that created the kind of interest in this case.
I think also because the plea deal that's just happened in the past week, what are the implications of that plea deal? OK,
so the plea deal is offered by the state of Idaho to Kohberger. Kohberger and through his lawyers have accepted the plea deal. What the plea deal did was take the death penalty off the table. Idaho is one of the 30-odd states that retain the death penalty. The death penalty in Idaho is through firing squad, actually. So by taking the death penalty off the table, Kohberger, who had been pleading not guilty, accepts that he did commit these crimes. The families, and I think we'll hear from Steve, Kaylee's father, shortly, some of the families are upset by the plea deal because they would have preferred that, you know, an eye for an eye, justice isn't really being served. And of course, because there is a plea deal as opposed to a trial, some of the crucial elements in the case won't necessarily be made public. You know, why did he do this? His motive. Of course, we don't need a motive in terms of a murder case. A prosecution just simply has to prove that this person did do the crime. There doesn't need to be a motive, but we might never uncover that, although there is some indication to suggest that Kohberger was influenced by incel culture.
You can understand the family's frustration as well. On the one hand, the trial won't happen, so they won't be put through the ordeal of hearing all the evidence and everything that's gone on. But on the other hand, this has been decided by one person. They aren't going to get the justice that they feel like they deserve. They're not... I mean, what Steve says, they're not going to get those answers, that he doesn't feel like he's been able to defend his daughter as best he could.
And, you know, my heart goes out to him, and I've read many of the quotes Steve has made in the press, and I understand entirely why he takes the view that he has taken. I've worked a lot with people who have had a family member who's been murdered, and they all find closure in different ways. And I get the impression Steve was going to find closure by Kohberger potentially receiving the death penalty. So I understand it entirely.
It's justice for them. We are joined now live by Steve Goncalves. His 21-year-old daughter, Kaylee, was tragically one of those 4 students. Steve, thank you for joining us and for bearing with us as well as we got the line up and clear to you. We appreciate your thoughts today. It's been a week since that plea deal has happened. I wonder what your first response was and how your family have been coping over the last week.
I feel like we worked our tails off for 2.5 years for a certain moment for our time in court. And anything less than our peers being able to judge what happened was a letdown, you know, and we're trying to wrap our head around the fact that one individual is able to determine what this justice was. And call us naive, but we grew up in a school system that told us that, you know, our juries, our peers would be the ones that told us, you know, decided what was guilty and innocent. And that's not how it worked. And we weren't prepared for one person to make a decision about something about 4 lives. So.
And Steve, what do you think about the fact that Kohberger will now face prison and not the death penalty?
It's pathetic, because in America, prison's daycare. It's daycare for adults. And my daughter deserves everything that I can give her, every bit of rage and power and everything that I could do to fight for her, I was doing. And I reached this one individual who made a decision without our input. And for me to stand silent and accept that is not who I am. That's not what this family is. We fight for our children. I mean, we're literally talking about life and death. And that's why I didn't want to be this guy. I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to do all this stuff, but I have no choice. I am who I am. I said, if you don't give my daughter the most respect, the most justice, then I can't support that. And that's all I've done.
Steve, did you and the families know that they were going to offer this plea deal? Because you've waited 3 years. Like you say, you've been working really hard for this chance in court, and this really seems like it's come out of left field for you.
It was out of left field. There's something going on about silencing. Everything was sealed. Everything. I mean, the gag order. Why are we doing a gag order? He pleaded guilty. We're still doing a gag order. So, no, we found on Friday they said that they might be looking at the possibility of pleading, and then by Sunday it was already done. And then they told us there's no way for us to even change the date. We've been trying to push back because my daughter's about to go to college, and we're trying to like juggle these things. Like, I'm trying to send her to college and still go to court at the same time, and they don't seem very interested in working with us at all.
Yeah. I'm so sorry, Steve, for the loss of your beautiful daughter. Does it also really feel even more painful, the fact that you won't get closure on it and you won't get answers?
It's worse than closure, people. What's going on is, without him saying he's the sole person responsible for this, he can portray this victimization of himself. He can make a book. His sister's already been working with a professor that helped educate him to become a killer. She's going to make a book. They're going to put some of those proceedings on his prison books. So we're just living this nightmare over and over. And some of the families, I get it. They were just trying to get out of this nightmare, which I want to be done with it as well. But there's a right way to do it, and then there's a wrong way. And right now, we've been sold out. We've been sold out in America. And for me to pretend like this is justice is it's beyond me. I can't do that. I can't wake up in the morning and be the same person that I am and not say that this is right or this is wrong. I'm going to stand up, and thank God for media. Thank God for people like you guys who can say, hey, if this is if not everybody's on board, let's talk about it. Let's hash this out. Let's get to some kind of agreement. So, I mean, they tried everything to keep me from talking to the media. And that's one reason why they were upset with me, was just because I was going to talk to the media. And I said, I'm going to talk to the media because they've been more fair to me than you guys have. So here I am, and we're at the end, but thank God to your audience. Thank God to other people that they're interested, because without that, we absolutely have no chance of justice.
Well, we can see the pain, Steve. We can see that you and your family are living that, and the feeling that you've been robbed of any opportunity to see justice as it should have been. Tell us a little bit about Kaylee. With the pictures that we've seen, she was an absolutely beautiful young lady and looked so full of life and joy.
Kaylee was amazing. She was that type of person that was kind of like how I'm trying to be. I'm trying to channel her, where she never gave up. She never, ever gave up. She kept fighting. If she had a mission to get a new dress or something that she wanted to do, a new pair of shoes, whatever it was, she'd go around the house doing chores and telling us and reminding us that she was going to work her tail off so she got what she wanted. And that's really why I'm like waking up in the morning right here. We're 4 a.m. in America, where I'm at in Idaho. So I was like, you know what, anything that I have to honor that beautiful girl, Maddie as well. I have to honor those girls. And if that means getting up in the morning, start my day off a little bit earlier, that's a small sacrifice for what these kids went through. And that's the thing, is these kids went through the very most grotesque moments. And some people are failing us. They're just not standing up to these monsters. And we see these school shootings, we see all these mass killings and stuff. And I feel it goes back to just us not putting our foot down and saying, enough. And I'm trying to say enough, but I can't get the system right now. I can't get the court to, come in line. So, we're going to try to do whatever changes we possibly can, but this is not justice. This is a shortcut, and I can't buy off on it.
No, look, Steve, we really appreciate your time this morning, getting up first thing. And thank you for sharing some memories. It's lovely to see you smile when you talk about her, because she clearly was a joyous part of your life. And those pictures that we've got of her here, she really does shine out. So thank you for joining us, and hopefully you will get some justice at some point.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day. It's summer, and I appreciate your time and your audience and all the love that they've given my family. I truly, truly, it's been medicine. And thank you, guys. Thank your audience.
Thank you, Steve.
David, just one question. The surprise that clearly the families felt when this plea was put in has come out of left field for them. It seems strange that they wouldn't have consulted them and say, what is it that you as the families need?
I'm also quite confused by that process, because that's not the process I would be used to. And some other families have accepted the plea deal, and that was what Steve was referencing there. Can I just say that Kohberger will not be able to benefit from any book that's written about the case under American law. And secondly, he's going to be held not in a daycare center, he's going to be held in the Idaho Maximum Security Institution, which is part of the Boise prison complex. And that particular institution, the Idaho Maximum Security Institution, is known as one of the worst prisons in the United States. He'll be locked down 23 hours out of 24. It is not a life that any of us would want, and he will never be released.
But it's not the justice that Steve wanted for his daughter. You can understand his pain, can't you? Really heartbreaking. Thank you, David.
You're welcome.
David.
Oh, hello. Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload tons of new content every single day. So hit the subscribe button, like all the videos, and don't miss out. We'll see you in the morning.